friends. It's just a joy to see you. We come quite often to Bangalore and love it here. This morning we're going to talk about the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda, an avatar for this age, and how we can all follow those teachings. You know, the teachings that he brought are both very great, very vast, but also absolutely practical. That's one of the, I would say, one of the great hallmarks of the teachings. Just as Einstein came to bring a new insight into how the world is put together. The fact that matter is not what it seems, that energy and matter are transferable. Einstein didn't come only for the physicists and only for the mathematicians. He came with these truths for everyone. And because these truths are rooted in the reality of what God is, then they apply equally to everyone, whether you believe them or not. And it's much the same with the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. Now, he didn't, just as Einstein didn't invent the truths that he discovered and explained, Yogananda didn't invent the truths. Nobody can invent truth. Truth just exists, but different people can come and express it in a way that is appropriate to the age and to the people who are living in that age. And so it is that Yogananda came to express and, one might say, clarify certain truths, but he's making religion. It isn't really even religion. He's making a spiritual life very practical. In ages past, if you wanted to be a spiritual person, because the world was so, one might say, dark and difficult to live in, if you really wanted to be a spiritual person, then you left and you went up into the Himalayas, or you went to an ashram if you were living in the West. You went to a monastery, or joined, if you were a woman, went to a monastic order with nuns, because you had to leave the world because you couldn't carry on a serious spiritual life in the midst of the world. But that age has changed now. And now, one of the things that Yogananda came was to integrate everything together. We do not have to, in fact, we should not feel that we have to leave the lives, the normal lives that we're living in order to be spiritual. Because if we divide our practical life and our spiritual life, then we create a division. And yoga is about union. Yoga is bringing everything together. In fact, it's interesting. If you look at Yogananda's name itself, it's joy through union, joy through yoga. If you look at his great book, it's autobiography of a yogi, that which brings union together. But the days in which we're separating things they belong to the past. They were necessary then, but they are no longer necessary, nor are they appropriate in the age that we're living in. So Yogananda said, the time for knowing God has come. And it is right now and right here, wherever your life is. You have the chance not to leave it, not to deny it, but to spiritualize it. Swami Kriyananda one time was visiting a businessman in, I think it was in Vancouver, Canada. He'd gone to do some programs and lectures there, and he was staying in the home of this businessman. And the man came back after his long day at work, and he came home and he said, now my real life can begin. I can go to my meditation room. And You know, one might say, oh, how wonderful, what a wonderful attitude that is. Swamiji's response was, how sad. Why does your real life have to begin now? You have to have your real life, your real life. You have to integrate it all together. You should have a sense of spirituality at work. You should have a sense of spirituality when you eat breakfast in the morning. There's a beautiful poem by Yogananda, God, God, God. And he goes through the day the very first thought of the morning is to think as we arise in the morning and begin to ascend the spiral staircase of wakefulness. My mind should repeat God, God, God. When I break my fast, I taste thee and say God, God, God. So make God a part of everything in your life. You know, these great avatars, they're not impractical. There was a spiritual teacher in America, and he had a witty statement. He said, just because you're trying to raise your consciousness doesn't mean that you should forget your zip code. And so as you raise your consciousness, you should have your consciousness embrace with greater clarity, with greater, infusion, everything in your life. These great avatars, if you read the autobiography of a yogi, one of the things in there that is very inspiring to me is that Babaji, long ago, high in the Himalayas, said that there is a very restless and difficult age coming, and mankind is going to be facing a lot of demands on consciousness. And so we need to send a new kind of teaching that is appropriate for this age. And so they brought Kriya Yoga. Now, what Yogananda came and brought to us was essentially two aspects of life. We have a soul, and we have that soul living in a particular body with a personality. Yogananda defined the ego as the soul that becomes identified with the body and the personality. Obviously, we have a body, we have a personality, but the mistake that we make is to think that that's our ultimate reality, whereas it's just one of a long series. We sit here now, I have this particular body and a particular personality, and it has a particular history of, I was born in a certain place, I was educated, my family was such and such. Each of us has a drama like that. And so we identify with that drama and think that that's what defines us. Well, it is just one tick of a second of a 24-hour clock that we're living in this particular time. Last life, we were born in a different place, probably had a different family, certainly had a different body, different name, all of that. Did that define us? No, we had the lifetime before that, and before that, and back into infinite numbers of lifetimes. So it's our soul that is our true reality, and that soul incarnates again and again in different circumstances, in different bodies, with different personalities. One time, often a thinking person will say, why? Why do this? Why did God create the world? And it's a very typical question for seekers. God, why did you create this world? Well, one answer typically given is that God created it as a lila, as just a play. Another that Swami Kriyananda gave, another reason that he gave, is a very beautiful one. He said, the nature of God is joy. And it is the very nature of joy to want to share with others. And so God needed the appearance of others in order to share his joy. And so we're all, we will never, ever be closer to God than we are right now, right here. Because we're a part of God. How can we be closer than that which we're a part of? But what can grow is our knowledge that we're a part of God, our knowledge that we're an extension of God, because it's really the ignorance of our current state of consciousness that is our problem. And so Yogananda said that the purpose of life is for our education, meaning the growth of our consciousness, the growth of our self-awareness, our education, and entertainment. And then he added, wryly, he said, but how few are either educated or entertained. So if we're kind of going through life a little bit like zombies, just doing whatever's in front of us without thinking about it, without expanding our consciousness, then probably we're neither entertained or educated in a life like that. But I don't want to talk to that group of people because they aren't sitting in this room. We're all sitting in this room because we want to be both educated and maybe entertained. I don't know if our talk is entertaining or not. But nonetheless, we want to grow in our consciousness. Well, what Yogananda brought in part, one of his teachings that's very practical, is that he integrated everything together. He integrated, as I've been talking, the sense of spirituality and daily life. For those of you who've read the autobiography and know a bit about the lineage, when the Kriya Yoga was released to the world, Lahiri Mahashaya met Babaji high in the Himalayas. Now, he was a householder with a job and children at the time he met Babaji. And in that meeting, he was given the remembrance of who he really was, went into samadhi for quite a long, many, many days, spent in samadhi. And he wanted to stay with Babaji up in the Himalayas. Babaji said, no, there's a reason why you were not awakened until you had these worldly responsibilities. Because in this age, you have to now go back and do your daily work. Be an accountant for the British military. Have a family, raise your children. Do all of the things to show that a spiritual life can be lived by householders in the world. Now, of course, this is all, to a certain extent, a drama of God playing these roles, because for us, when we're acting a role too, but we aren't really aware of the fact that the role has been written already and that we've already seen the script and know the ending, as any actor in a movie would have read the whole script. Well, the avatars are the actors in the movie that have read the whole script. We're the walk-ons who just are given one little line or one little part, and we don't know the whole of it. But they know. And so Lahiri, of course, knew this. In fact, he incarnated in this time and period because he had great compassion for the busy life of householders. He knew that in this age, people would not have hours and hours to dedicate to their sadhana. And he said, we have to bring them a technique that is very efficient, very quick, which is Kriya Yoga. And so he incarnated in order to be a vehicle of that into the world. So the integration of a householder life, a practical life, a daily life with a spiritual life, that's one part of it. other things that Master Yogananda, we call him Master, that Master brought in order to integrate was science and spirituality. In years gone by, science and religion were at war with each other. And it's still true to a certain extent. If you're a scientist and you're trying to get grants and carry on your research, you can't mention God, you can't mention spirituality, and you have to present your research as if it is only appertaining to the physical plane and the physical realities. That the edges of that are breaking down now, because even for scientists, they can't explain most of the phenomena without going beyond just the physical world in the explanation. But Yogananda came in order to say that science and religion, or science and spirituality, are not separate from each other. They're just two different ways of searching for the truth. And he said, in fact, science is very valid because what you try to do in science is you try to have experiments that you have a theorem, and then you experiment, and if your experiment is successful, you prove that your theory is right. He said that meditation is the same thing, that we should have the sense that meditation is an experiment in trying to find truth. And we have to see whether it works or not. And what makes a scientific experiment valid? That others can replicate that same experiment and get the same result. Can others replicate meditation and get the same result? Can others find samadhi, which is the goal, ultimately, the union of our consciousness with everything? Can others find that, or was it just Yogananda? If it was just Yogananda, then we have to say, well, maybe he just made it all up. But through all ages, all religions, all times, men, women, many have experienced that state of consciousness. So if it's replicable, then we have to say that these truths are true. And our job is to be good scientists, be good experimenters, and follow the experiment through to its end so that we get the same result that they did, the result that we're after, which is union of our consciousness with everything that exists. And that's another aspect. Another aspect that Yogananda did was to say that there's really no difference in different cultures. East, West, he brought East and West together. Said there isn't an Eastern way of living and a Western way of living. Yes, there are cultural patterns, but the time has come to bring those together. We have sitting right in front of us Dr. Aditya, who is a surgeon, was a surgeon. He's more of an acharya now for Ananda, but when he's doing an operation, he doesn't ask, what religion is this person? Because if it's a Hindu, the liver will be of a certain type. Or if it's a Christian, that liver will be of a completely different type. It's all one. And Yogananda came in order, and please understand, I'm not saying that Yogananda is the only one. God is releasing these understandings into the world at this time. So one of the understandings is that there are no difference between people all over the world. One of the joys for Devi and I is that we get to travel a lot, maybe more than we like, but a lot. And in those travels, we get to see a lot of cultures, a lot of people. We just gave a program in Germany, a retreat weekend, and we had people in that retreat weekend from 16 different countries that were participating. And many of them got up, just like we saw this morning, they got up, one choir singing the same song. One meditation, 16 different countries. Was the Slovenian meditating differently than the Albanian? No, they were all meditating the same way. Our consciousness is the same. And the cultural differences, the regional differences, the fancy frozen boundaries that divide one country from another, they're just extracts from an old way of thinking. Ultimately, we will see that there is one world, one people, one reality, one spiritual family. We have a book signed by Yogananda, and he said there is one breath that unites all together. We're all breathing the same air of this one planet together. One day we'll wake up to that reality. Now, for those of us sitting here, the time for knowing God has come. Now, others, if they aren't ready for that challenge, let them live their life the way they want to live their life. But for us, our job is to realize these truths, to live these truths, to make spirituality, to make our spirituality practical. And the way that we do that is first of all by meditation, because meditation centers us, calms the mind sufficiently so that we can, but when the mind is too ruffled, is too busy, we can't see beneath the surface. And we can't see anything deeper, we can't see anything farther than the problem of whether we ordered enough grain for our breakfast cereal. You know, our minds are too caught up in the moment to be thinking in long terms. But if we calm that mind, then we can begin to see that what we really are made up of eternal qualities. We're made up of vibration, of light and sound. We're made up of love and joy and wisdom. All of these qualities of God were just God expressing himself in this time, in this age, in this body. And the time for knowing that that's our reality, that's what Yogananda is saying. The time for knowing that has come. And it's a joy to share with you this morning. And I hope that you will really support. There's, as most of you know, there's a transition going on here. Hari and Roma are leaving, and a new group of wonderful souls are taking over the leadership here. Please give your energy and support to supporting that transition, because if we all come together, supporting each other, encouraging each other, then this center can be a great light of truth for all of Bangalore, all of India, all of the world. God bless you.
Okay, wait. These are the new leaders. Okay. Okay. Good morning. Good morning. We so much enjoy coming to Bangalore, as Jyotish said. Such beautiful devotion. And the mic is not right yet. Okay. When I saw the title of this talk, Paramahansa Yogananda, Living the Teachings of an Avatar, I was a little intimidated. Oh, that's maybe over my head. But then what's the root of the word avatar? It means to descend. And so we don't have to think about it as the descent of divine power, although it is. We don't have to think of it as, I will show you the way to God if you follow me, but it is. But I think for me, the way I understand the descent of the avatar best is from our Guru's poem, God's Boatman, when he says, I will come again and again, crossing 1,000,000 crags of suffering, with bleeding feet if need be, as long as there is one stray brother weeping by the wayside. That's the descent of the avatar. Compassion, the desire to bring people out of their suffering. And yes, I can follow that. Yes, I can try to mold my life of the principles of compassion and to help others, and to not just helping them in a charitable way, in a practical way, but to help them find the way out of suffering. You know, Ananda has a beautiful work, probably most of you know about it, in Vrindavan with the widows. We've been doing it for about 8 or 9 years now. And we have provided homes and care and food and family for really thousands of widows that were just living on the street. And we've brought them in. And yes, we've given them physical comfort, but more than that, we've taught them the teachings of Yogananda, how to serve others, how to pray for others, how to meditate. And it's changing their lives more than just giving them a blanket, giving them food. It's changing in fact, one of the other charitable organizations, the Ramakrishna Order, has a hospital in Vrindavan. And the head Swami there said, Ananda is changing how people see charitable work, because it isn't just about giving things, it's about giving hope, and it's about giving people the ability themselves to change their life and improve their life. And so the avatar comes, the descent, in the form of the Guru. It has to take a physical form. And what's the root of the word guru? It means, that's the answer, I think. Ask and you shall receive. The root of the word guru means the dispeller of darkness, that which drives away darkness. And there's actually an amusing story. One of the resident members of our ashram community, where our home base is in California, Ananda Village, his mother was visiting, a very nice older woman. And she was asking her son, what is the meaning of this word guru? Why do you follow a guru? And he said, well, mother, it means dispeller of darkness, that which drives away darkness. She said, oh. And then she was having lunch with a group of people, visitors at our meditation retreat. And she said, my son told me the meaning of guru. It means dispenser of darkness. And all the new people, really? Not dispenser of darkness, dispeller of darkness. So the Guru comes, the avatar is sent on a mission. These great, from the undifferentiated, infinite consciousness of God, looks down at our poor little planet and said, these children need help. I'm going to send a part of my consciousness down in the form of an avatar, and that avatar will take form and have a life story as a guru. He that or she that enters the world and drives out the darkness, drives out the darkness. What is the darkness? It's our own delusion. It's our own separation from God. It's our own inability to feel that God's joy is with me right this moment, whatever happens. And as Harish was saying, Jyotish and I have had the blessing, it's not a past tense, of being with Swami Kriyananda for almost 55 years, each one of us. So we can say we've been with him for a total of over 100 years put together. But to watch a man of his dedication, who took on every challenge that faced him. You know, his guru, our guru, Yoganandaji, said to him when he was a new monk, a new disciple, he said, "You have a great work to do." And at first Swami thought he was talking to someone next to him. The master said, "No, I'm talking to you." And his great work is why we're here today. His great work of bringing light into the world, of making Yogananda accessible and understandable, and to feel, I could do this, I could practice meditation. Maybe if I try, I'll get Kriya Yoga. And so Yoganandaji's had this spiritual son, Kriyananda, and Kriyananda gave to all of us the understanding that we're all part of a great world work. No matter if we have flaws, no matter if we feel totally inadequate or unspiritual, or if we like to binge watch TV, whatever it may be, it still does not separate us from the Guru. As long as there's the desire to get rid of that which holds us back, get rid of those false conceptions of that the ego says, what about me? What about my needs? What about my recognition? What about my acquiring more wealth? All of these things. That's the ego. But the soul says, Lord, I don't need anything. You will take care of me. And when we came to Ananda as young people, we lived very, very simple lives and without much material fixings at all. I remember, and we had many adventures, many adventures that God was testing us. In the early days, we lived we live in the mountains, so it's rainy and cold. And one evening, this was before Jyotish and I married, I was living alone in a little trailer in the woods. And in those days, no cell phone, no computer. It sounds like prehistoric times, but it really wasn't that long ago. And one evening, I was sitting in my trailer, no electricity, just had a little kerosene lamp, and I was reading the Bible. And then a storm came, and it was raining very, very hard. And there was a knock on the door. And it was late at night, and I thought, who would that be? And I opened the door. No one was around. Nobody you could call for help. And there was a strange man there. He said, "Can I come in?" And I was by myself, and I just said, "Master, you better keep an eye on this situation." So he came in. "I'm hungry." And I had a little food. I gave him some food. Kept looking, when is he going to leave? And then he said, "Do you have anything to drink?" And I gave him something to drink. And then he said, "I like it here." And and then he rolled up his sleeve and he said, "I've got sores all over my arms." I thought, "Oh, Master, what do I do now?" And then all of a sudden, boom, he got up and just left. I thought, what in the world was that all about? And then I continued reading the Bible. For those of you who know it, there's a beautiful passage when Christ says to the disciples, "And I was hungry, and you gave me to eat. And I was thirsty, and you gave me to drink. And I was naked, and you clothed me." And the disciples said, "When did we do this, Lord?" And Christ answered, "When you did this to the least of my little ones, you did it unto me." And that's been the journey. the journey of sharing the love of the avatar, the love of the guru, sharing it with everyone, and not thinking of yourself. I could have slammed the door in the guy's face and locked the door, but I thought, he came for a reason. Let me find out what the reason is. And the reason was and I never saw the man again. I've often over the years wondered if he was real, at all. But it gave me that ability to say, someone's asking for help. I'm not going to think about my own needs here. I'm going to think about helping someone else. And this is the living the teachings of the avatar. It's not something very high and beyond our reach. It's something very immediate and from the heart. And Yogananda was